Most Sunday mornings we'll be calling on our business correspondent, Ray Brady, for news and predictions from his beat. We haven't got started any too early either. After all, this was the week when the president had a good deal to say about the economy. Ray?
This is the week the administration went eyeball to eyeball with the budget and the economic outlook in the State of the Union message. And out of it came a new look in government, the thrift look. The reason for the noble resolution to cut government spending is to cool off inflation. But one problem for at least 3 administrations has been this. If you slow up the economy enough to affect inflation, then unemployment rises. And nothing makes politicians more nervous and eager to spend again than the sight of voters standing in unemployment lines. This time around, economists are guessing if the unemployment rolls go up another 500,000 persons, thrift will go out the window, possibly well before we've gotten the inflation rate down. On food alone, for example, this week the administration said those prices would go up 7%. But private economists predict food may cost you as much as 15% more. And there's an old saying that money makes the mayor go round, and nowhere does that particular mayor run faster than on Wall Street. Corporation profits are soaring, and that, along with the hope interest rates are peaking, sent the Dow Jones Industrial Average up more than 20 points this week. Incidentally, no less an authority than the Guinness Book of Records says there's no way of telling what has been the greatest investment of all times, but the book thinks one stock, IBM, may have been it. If you had bought 100 shares of it in 1932, assuming you had the money and you were around in those times, you would have paid out just over $5,000. Since then, you would have gotten back almost 100 times as much in dividends, nearly $500,000. And at its high a few years ago, that $5,000 in stock would have had a market value of $5.75 million. And in anybody's book, including Guinness's, that's what you call making money.
I don't know about you, but things move so fast in the popular culture of America that I have always felt unfashionable and old-fashioned and vaguely out of date. Luckily, a frequent visitor on Sunday morning is going to be Blair Sable, who is as bright and up-to-date as this morning. I don't know what's hot from what's not, but Blair Sable knows.
I think it's great that the entire country has gone to health, that every corner gas station or drugstore seems to be holding weekend mini marathons, not to mention the number of carrot juice bars replacing the Orange Julia stands in car washes. Of course, with any fad, there comes the inevitable negative kickback. For instance, there's a growing cult of fitness freaks labeled the physical elite. Now, they are usually those folks who feel a sense of superiority towards anyone who doesn't run at least 18 miles a day, or squat thrust a 300-pound barbell 5 times a day, or fast on Poland water and mung bean sprouts 3 times a week. In addition, I can't seem to trust a tennis pro or exercise instructor who wears satin jogging togs and tanner face gel to a real workout. In fact, I find it hard trusting anyone in that visual unless they work as a waiter or a waitress in some disco. And I definitely find myself passing on anyone who confides that he found God at some Sweat for Life weekend seminar starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Masters and Johnson. And if last year was the year of the plastic surgeon, this year is surely the year of the sports medicine doctor. But be careful of any of that professional advice if he confesses to smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day, but only after 6 o'clock at night. And question any doctor who insists on giving an examination with his white jacket thrown over his Frank Shorter shorts and Adidas tank top, even if he swore he just washed his hands. In all, I guess we'll have to put up with all this jock chic until someone discovers that running causes serious inner thigh deterioration, or a vegetable diet causes some deadly form of nasal drip, or too many hot tub baths result in a permanent pruning of the skin. Perhaps we'll simply have to wait for the verdict that too much fitness can be dangerous to your health.
Another of the literate and learned friends of ours who will be here frequently to share news and opinion is Haywood Hale Broun, who's going to be our critic at large. Mr. Brune is actor, writer, reader, raconteur, and former sports reporter for CBS News, whose role has changed here, but whose sport jackets have not. Woody, have you read any good books lately?
Well, I suppose, Charles, you could say I'm here to say a good word for gloom, in an odd sort of way. Dr. Willard Galen, a psychiatrist, has written a new book called Feelings, Our Vital Signs. And Dr. Galen feels that the painful feelings, which most of us try to avoid, are really in some ways useful to us. They show us that we should adjust that delicate mechanism which is a human being living complicated human life. Now, he's going against the tide of the psychological cheeries who write the self-help books and who tell us that to be guilty or depressed or to be gloomy is to be sick. And they mostly suggest that if you feel any painful emotion, you get off for a weekend with a group of people and you should all be rude to each other and thereby release these feelings. That's what Dr. Galen calls the pus theory of emotion. You lance your emotional boil, spill rage over your friends and feel better on Monday. He obviously thinks this is nonsense, and I'm glad that he does. I always get depressed when people are rude to me. It doesn't cure things. And he also said, and I think this is a startling statement, that guilt is the noblest of emotions. Now think of that, guilt, the noblest of emotions. We've all been taught that it's just a sign that our parents didn't love us enough and therefore we feel guilty. But he points out that it's guilt that makes you send flowers after you've behaved badly. It's guilt that lets you recover a friend by going up and saying, I was terrible Friday night and I'm sorry. It's guilt that makes you a better person, perhaps. Now, he's not, of course, referring to those guilts or complexes or depressions which make it impossible for you to enter an elevator or something like that. He's talking about normal, painful emotions. And Gerard Cote, the Belgian marathon runner, once said that the crispy salad of victory doesn't taste as good as if it would if it had the tang, the bitter tang of chicory, of defeat. And therefore, you would have to say that feeling good is especially good if you have felt bad. Charles Dickens knew this when he had people come into inns and steam in front of fires. The fire is warmer if you've been outside and you've been wet and you've been cold. So trust your feelings. Now, just for the record, the book is called Feelings, Our Vital Signs. It's by Dr. Willard Galen and it's published by Harper & Row. And here's Charles.
Haywood Hillbrun, who is going to be with us nearly every Sunday morning. Every Sunday morning you can count on us for the weather. We can't guarantee you'll like it, but this week you might. Some clouds and light snow are expected here and there, but no major storms. Today there will be sunshine from the north central states into Texas. Most of the weather action will come from a weak storm crossing the middle Atlantic states. Clouds and light rain and snow will extend from the Ohio Valley to the east coast. Some highs for today: New York 39, Miami 73, Bismarck, North Dakota 15. Tomorrow, bright sunshine for most of the west coast, light snow showers dipping across the Rockies. Pretty fair day elsewhere, with only light snow or snow flurries expected in northern New England. Some highs: Chicago 27, Los Angeles 63, Dallas 45. That's for Monday. Rain is forecast Tuesday for the Pacific Northwest. Partly cloudy across the middle of the nation. Cloudy to partly cloudy from New England to the mid-Atlantic states. Florida will be bright and sunny, but a little on the cool side. The highs will be in the 30s from Seattle to Kansas City to New York. On Wednesday, more rain in the Pacific Northwest, and some areas up there will get snow. Clear skies will be the rule from Southern California across the southern tier of the United States up through the central and northern plains. Rain over the middle Atlantic states may change to snow from Delaware north on Wednesday. The southeast should have good weather, and after a cool start, Florida should be mild. Some highs: Miami 72, Bismarck 18 by Wednesday. No temperatures are expected to go over 80. Altogether, the start of a pretty good week. I have more than a passing interest in the weather because I'm out in it all the time, on the road. When I'm not here with you on Sundays, I'll still be wandering the back roads finding postcards to send to Walter Cronkite. We thought it might be interesting on Sunday morning to look up some of the people I've met down the years on the road to find out how they're getting along. For example, if you were watching the CBS Evening News December 26, 1974, and had to go to the kitchen to turn the roast, then you didn't meet Tom Scribner of Santa Cruz, California. The neighbors on Alta Avenue probably wonder about the singular figure in the derby hat who marches so resolutely along these afternoons and turns in at Arlene Sutton's house. What does he carry in his big black box, and who is he anyway? Well, neighbors, permit me. What he carries is nothing more than the tools of his trade. Tom Scribner, ex-lumberjack, ex-sawmill hand, is a man who knows the uses of a saw. With Arlene Sutton, a church pianist for 20 years, and retired tanner Herman Olson on accordion and second saw, Tom Scribner, musical saw player, rehearses at the age of 75, well into the last act of a career which commenced, well, a while ago. When did you first start playing this thing?
1910.
1910?
Yeah, the year of Halley's Comet, I remember it well.
It looks like a terribly hard instrument to play to me.
Well, it is. They say it's the hardest instrument in the world, but then a lot of musicians will snort and they'll say, yeah, but it isn't an instrument, it's a tool.
You have to be careful, I assume, never to turn it the wrong way.
That's right.
Be hard on a bow.
Yeah, it's, I've been known to do this when I'm drunk sometimes. And there goes a bow. Cut a bow up, cost $25.
How did you happen to first take up such a strange instrument?
Well, I went to a vaudeville show with my dad in 1910 that time. He took the whole family in. Then a piano player came out and sat down at the piano and started playing. The saw got right in with her, you know. And oh, boy, it cracked me up. I had to learn that.
You don't remember what the song was?
Daisy Bell.
Can you play it?
Yes.
How does it go?
Daisy Bell. Get it in G, can you? Right?
Oh, that Daisy Bell. What Tom Scribner would like is one last fling, a vaudeville tour like the one he took before he started his lumberjack career, the one he took in 1915.
I was too young in 1915, that's all there was to it. I was just 16 years old, and they were touring us around like Cleveland, Toledo, and Buffalo, and Chicago, and Milwaukee, and all that. I was pretty young to take all that train riding around, and like I say, all the can-can gals and the chorus girls just swarm all over me. That saw it turn them on.
Girls went for saw players, did they?
Oh, man, did they ever. Yeah, they still do, as far as I can.
Well, that was 5 years ago. Tom Scribner is 80 now, still playing the saw, still alive, and already immortal. They've put a statue of him, a fine statue by sculptor Margie McMahon at the edge of the town park. There was a political fight about the statue because somebody discovered Tom Scribner was a wobbly, a radical union organizer in his youth. But those who thought him a cultural asset to Santa Cruz won out and the statue went up. Tom Scribner says he likes it. He says it's got to be a lot better than being posed on a horse with a sword in your hand.
It's Sunday morning on CBS, and here again is Charles Kuralt.
For millions of Asians, this is New Year's Day, 4677, the year of the Ram. But it's not a very happy New Year's for all those Vietnamese refugees packed into squalid camps or bobbing on the sea in tiny fishing boats looking for a shoreline, looking for a home. Many of those who live through this new year will end up in the United States, which has already taken in 186,000 Vietnamese refugees. And how is that going to work? Can America absorb so many? Can they become American? Morton Dean thinks maybe they can.
I remember this particular Sunday in Saigon, at the Saigon Zoo. A place that made the war seem so far away. A place where a little boy could play with his yellow balloon. A place where children could laugh. What made me remember that was this. A Sunday, a park, not Saigon, but Phoenix, Arizona. And I remember the churches in Vietnam on Sunday. And the religious services. What made me remember that was this. A Sunday, a church. Not Saigon, but Phoenix. And this was Vietnam. And this is Phoenix. Visiting with the Vietnamese refugees here is to see a mirror of their past and a window to their future.
There is thing I want the world to be. It's not coming true, especially for me.
They live in two different worlds, but the old world and the new seem to blend more often than they clash. It's extraordinary.
I'm on the top of the world again.
They have been able to retain some of what was and have adapted to what is. In typical American homes, those with 2 cars on the outside and 3 bedrooms on the inside are typical Vietnamese families, improvising typical Vietnamese meals. And a few miles across town, you'll find another Vietnamese family in the little home with the swimming pool outside and the very latest American gadget toys inside. Here in Phoenix, Horatio Alger has changed his name. Changed it to names such as Nguyen, Lam, Dang, or Trun Lee. Trun Lee is now a management trainee for an insurance company.
You were vice mayor of Saigon, a head of civil service for the country. You have a PhD. What kind of work did you do when you first came to the United States?
The first job I did for the first month is a janitor in an elementary school.
A janitor in a school?
Yes.
Did that bother you that it was the only job you could get?
No, it did not bother me at all, because it is a honest job. I earn the money with my labor.
Of the more than 100 Vietnamese families who have settled here in the past 3 years, at least 65%, perhaps as many as 80%, have bought their own homes. Small homes, modest homes, but their own homes.
We are proud because we are not a burden of the country, of the United States.
These people and this town appear to be made for each other. The economy is booming, and they want to work. Unemployment among the refugees is virtually non-existent, but many have been held back from better jobs because of the language problem. So people with white-collar skills are doing blue-collar work.
I was a student of Saigon University.
What were you studying?
Law.
Is there a possibility you pick up with law again here someday?
No, I don't think so.
You'll find Vietnamese in all sorts of jobs. At the electronics plant, at the China Doll restaurant, and guess who runs the Little Italy service station? Jill Borden runs an English language program sponsored by the Phoenix school system.
They've definitely been the most exciting and rewarding group I've worked with because of this determination to get on with the business of living and not wallow in self-pity and not carry that big chip.
The symbol of their determination is the light in the window at 1 in the morning. He works, and he also goes to school. One of the schools a number of Vietnamese go to is the County Skills Center to learn electronics, to learn about computers.
Mark your backspace.
Thank you very much. This was a graduation day.
Do you have some family here you'd like to introduce?
Yes, I have my friend and 2 daughters.
Your 2 daughters and your friend?
Yes.
Let's give them a hand.
Not all of them make it, at least not right away. While drive and hard work are characteristic of the Vietnamese in Phoenix, drive does not necessarily translate into dollars. Nguyen Noi, his wife and 5 children, fled Vietnam in a small boat. They've been here 7 months. Noi has a job, but he's had trouble making ends meet. There's little state or federal financial aid available in Arizona. The Catholic and Lutheran churches provide startup money and help out in emergencies, but that emergency help is rarely needed. Almost all of the families who settled in the Phoenix area were on their own, totally self-sufficient within a year.
The boat is coming.
The children have adjusted most easily. They have felt welcome, have found American friends, and seem to fit in. School administrators say they are good to excellent students. Learning the new language opens many doors.
Only a grasp. In the night, the temperature had been 48 degrees Fahrenheit.
Their parents insist that they not close any doors. They study the Vietnamese language every other Sunday when the Buddhists, who make up 70% of the Vietnamese refugee population, gather in the park. They learn, play, and most important, say their parents, their sense of identity, their sense of community is reinforced.
They want the children to maintain some of the Vietnamese reserve, some of the Vietnamese respect for authority, and yet they want them to become Americanized so they can get out into the flow of society. And to try to reconcile those two is very difficult.
It's a minor battle compared to those they have fought before. For many Vietnamese Catholics, the U.S. is just the latest and, they hope, the last stop on the long, bloody road to religious freedom. Many fled North Vietnam to the south to escape communism. And when communism came south, they came here. Their priest is also a refugee from Vietnam, Father Olivier. He's a 74-year-old Canadian who spent 47 years in Vietnam. Last year, the communists ordered him away from his adopted homeland, but he wouldn't stay away from his adopted people. For almost all of them, this is the first time in their lives that they have lived in a nation at peace from before World War II to the present. This story shouldn't be construed as a love song to them. It's their love song to freedom. The people you met today have awakened from the Indochina nightmare and have begun to live the American dream. They remind us of what Vietnam was and is. And they also remind us of what America was and is. The Vietnamese are what many of our parents and grandparents were,
refugees, immigrants, displaced persons, strangers in a new land. None of them came with very much baggage, but all of them came with a determination to put the pieces of their lives together again, and to be free, and to live in peace. Morton Dean, CBS News, Phoenix, Arizona.